Hello and welcome back to the Schooner Pod. Your Oklahoma Sooners, frankly, just thrashed the Temple Owls 42-3 in Philadelphia at Lincoln Financial Field, and I am fresh off the plane from DC to talk to you about it. I'm your host, Bobby Howard. With me today, my co-host, as always, Jameson Maxwell, Ty Lee. Boys, as far as football goes, not a very remarkable game. Oklahoma went in there, absolutely beat down Temple. Wasn't really remotely a contest in this one. And Jameson, a lot of controversy entering this about the atmosphere and how flat it was.
Kirk Street?
Well, Kirk Herbstreit said it would be 17-17. I forget about that. At the end of the third. Weird.
Bro, that's a total box score checker. Man, I understand this guy wears many hats, so I don't know how much football he can actually watch, but yikes. What the hell? I mean, did you watch that live, Ty? Like, were people clowning him afterwards? Because I just saw the clip online. It was on game day.
No, was it during game day?
Yeah.
I don't. It's game day starts at 6:00 for me, so unless it's something I really want to watch, I'm not getting up for it. So
that is true.
I was at a Starbs and Quick Trip, I believe, around the time he would have been saying that.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. And Temple, congratulations for scoring almost 100 points in the first two games. It's just this Oklahoma defense is next level. And we've known this and we continue to see it. And I don't care if one of our other, marks on our resumes because of what we did to Temple. But whenever you absolutely destroy a team that was putting up a lot of points first, I understand UMass and Howard, and you look good on paper and you looked that good versus Michigan too, makes me feel really confident for this coming week.
Yeah.
That's
a really important segue.
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to flip that easy to the Auburn game.
No, of course.
But we'll get we're going to spend the lion's share of our time talking about it.
You guys said Auburn Focus Pod.
Yeah, it's only 2 minutes and 34 seconds. No, but it was a beatdown. Atmosphere wise, Jameson, I think you and I could both agree, one of the weirdest Sooner games either of us have been to. Very obviously very OU slanted. I felt like very empty, concessions, not operating at full strength. There were times where you'd walk in the stadium and it was almost like creepily silent.
Didn't it feel like a high school game? Because it kind of did. I think that was right. And let's be honest,
a little bit.
And with OU's little derpy band too, like, come on, it was like such high school.
Shout out to the St. Joe's band. I appreciate them for showing up. I will always root for St. Joe's anytime they pop up along the way. I love them. Love their little mascot who, Ty, I'm not sure if you're aware of the St. Joe's mascot, but he is required to flap his wings the entirety of every basketball game and cannot stop flapping. It's awesome. An incredible thing. He was not there, but the little band was there. They were fun. But overall, yeah, it felt like a weird high school game. And weirdly enough, at halftime when they had the little leaguers out there kind of playing, that atmosphere felt like it made more sense for that than a college football game.
Michael Hawkins is not that. He's okay.
No.
I will say the first little leaguer went out there and took it to the house first play. I thought he was going to drop it down and do some crazy celebration dance. Like, I feel like I've seen enough online.
But the defense had nobody in the flats.
All right. Okay. Back to Oklahoma. This defensive line is amazing. It's like really, really good. This Temple team could not run the ball at all, and it just forced them to be so one-dimensional. And I don't think that that's something I'm worried that's going to drop off when it comes to SEC play. And I think it's really important too. We look at our schedule moving forward. Like, how many really good passers do we have in the near future? We can make a insert Arch Manning clown joke, insert Jackson Arnold joke. But the reality of it is, if we can stop the run and make a team one-dimensional in the passing game, that's how we win. And the way that we saw David Stone in the interior in that first drive just blow things up, Jaden Jackson blow things up with Kip Lewis in that first play of the game, we'll continue to see that at a higher level, and it's going to make teams extremely uncomfortable.
Yeah. Without a doubt. And the depth across the board, which is going to be very important next week with R. Mason Thomas likely being suspended after the targeting call. We could talk about that later. it's a nightmare for anyone. And I know it's Temple. I know they're overmatched, but they're just damn good. They allowed the leading rusher had 24 yards, Ducker. Just absolutely 27 total yards on the day through the ground for Temple. That is just dominance.
And Ducker he had one long run. It was at 20, and everything else is nothing. Like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, across the board defensively was insanely impressive. Temple only finished with 105 yards. I believe Gabe had a stat that it was like 63 yards total at the half. So just an elite defensive performance top to back. When you consider some of the tenor about this game is, what is it going to look like? Ultimate look ahead situation with Auburn. You just came off beating Michigan. Can you move on? And they just passed it with flying colors. And we've seen some OU teams mess around and not look good in these spots in the past. And got to give it up to them. They showed up and just were clicking on all cylinders, especially on defense.
Yeah. And this gets very nitpicky. Well, first, to zoom out for a second, this OUD line and defense is so good against the run that when they get out there, neither team can run. I haven't seen running back performances that impress me from anyone every time OU has played. So shout out to our D for we'll get into that. But to zoom back in and to be a little nitpicky, there were moments, if you watch the replay, if you were there in person, or if you watched on TV or watched some of the highlights, there were moments, and this is not to discredit Temple and their players and the effort that they put into the game plan and everything else, but there were certainly moments on plays where you could see that we were getting very lax, even when we shouldn't have been because of the score, because we kind of knew where things were at. And then we locked in later on in drives. I think the film room sessions for this team after that game will be kind of interesting and have been kind of interesting, I'm assuming, because if we were locked in playing like we were the Michigan game the entire time, this would have been a much more impressive defensive performance. And frankly, that's not
what
really
else do you want?
Right? Like,
you want
no, but that's
more
I'm saying. Yeah, no,
like,
that's what I'm saying.
I think the only points they scored, they had a short field. Like, this was a
it was on that interception. No. Like, defensively, it was.
You can get nitpicky with it, but it's this. That's what I'm saying, though, is trying to get in front of that stuff. Is like, this defense for big games and for stuff like Auburn has now faced a massive game, a game that's much bigger than anything we're going to face till we go to Texas, and succeeded at home. And we've now faced an environment on the road where you're up against that second biggest killer of a defense, which is letting your guard down and being lax and everything else. And yes, no one can be 100% dialed in all the time, especially for a game like this. But I think all in all, we were very dialed in, like you guys are saying. Like, what more could you ask for? Never going to be perfect to the coaches, right? But to me, this performance was a lot more about what I saw effort and vibes wise from the defense than what I saw in the box score, because I knew that the box score was going to be impressive for us either way. And I was looking at, how locked in are we? Do we look like we care, even though this is a nothing game or whatever? It doesn't impact the conference, doesn't impact anything else. And all in all, we absolutely look like, especially on the defense, that we cared and we were still dialed in and still disciplined. So to me, I think we're seeing tremendous buy-in from the players to the coaching staff and to the program and to what we're building this year. And that was very, very, very good to see, because we're going to get into the box score stuff and everyone's going to talk about the box score stuff. But it's, to me, the vibes are
garbage. It doesn't mean anything, honestly, with this game. And talking about the effort, Bobby turned to me first play when Kip Lewis got into the backfield, and he goes, "Damn, Kip Lewis is really excited already." Like, what? And I'm like, I mean, good for him, right? Like, that's what you want your, one of your better defenders. If not, I'd say he's probably top 3 defender. I'd say he's number 3 if I had to rank it down on the team, but that could be a hot take in its own. But like, that's what you want from linebackers that are just fiery and will fly down the middle. And you saw that from both him and Kobe. And then you've been seeing it, honestly, Sammy, this whole season too. Like, these guys are fiery, extreme effort, and doing the smart thing too.
Oh yeah. Like, the energy was off the charts. It didn't feel like a game that nobody cared about to them, because they absolutely cared. That Kip Lewis play that I was talking about, it was like a 3-yard loss, tackle in the backfield, which is always great, but he he was acting like he was, just made a massive, tackle in a primetime game. You loved that. I thought the energy was there front to back, defensively, just a true shutdown dominating performance. I thought my favorite defensive moment of the game was when Temple was kind of stuck on the goal line, and the players started kind of pumping the OU side of the crowd up, which was most of the crowd, and we were this close to a Grayson Halton pick six. That ball just skied up in the air. He just didn't have the hands for it.
I wanted him just to put those arms a little bit farther out. That's all we needed. I just wanted to touch his hands a little bit longer.
It was close, but it was almost that would have been just a truly beautiful moment. But overall, just couldn't be happier with the play. Again, that only downside is the R. Mason Thomas ejection for the targeting. I finally got a chance to really look at it. They didn't show replays in the stadium and everything. I don't love it. I don't love it. I think
you don't love the call, as in you don't think it's a good
call.
call. I mean, he did kind of propel a little bit upwards if you're really nitpicking slow motion.
I think
yes, but I don't think it was malicious. Is my thing. I don't think it was malicious, and I don't think it was
reckless. The rule isn't that right? Isn't it?
It's not intent based. No.
And what I'm saying is they should kind of tweak the rule a little bit.
So like a flagrant NBA. So you're saying like it's like with intent, it would get you to a flagrant 2, and you can get kicked out.
What do you prove?
I actually think that's a great way to handle that. I think a flagrancy scale, because that's one where it's like contact to the helmet, but not intentional.
Yeah, I will say, and I'm not sure how clear this was to you guys in the stadium or what you've seen on the replay, but it seemed on the broadcast and from what we were shown on the broadcast that it was like booth or like headquarters initiated or whatever. Like the refs on the field and in the moment did not call it. And I don't know if it was like a delayed reaction, but
all are with those like going to the booth to review.
I mean, they're all reviewed by the booth, but typically you get the flag on the field initially. This was like, like it was called down to them. Hey, throw a flag. We're reviewing this.
Well, the initial flag was for roughing the passer, which I that's fair. That's fine. Maybe a little too tight for my liking, but I can understand that.
But my problem is whenever the higher ups were looking at it, I think that people look up and it's right. Injections, it just completely screws people. It screwed over Michigan last week.
Yeah. And that one was lighter than this one, honestly.
And speaking of, and on the targeting thing, this was something that I said in our group text. I don't know if I said this on the pod, but there were several hits by both teams last week against Michigan that were way more clear cuts, quote unquote targeting, or could have passed for it than that hit today. So it is interesting still that this is kind of back and forth on how strongly it's being enforced. But at the same time, right, and we're not to preview or show our hands on this OU Auburn one, but I don't know that our Mason Thomas is an amazing player. I don't know that missing one half of our Mason Thomas is going to contribute at all to.
He makes his money in the fourth quarter too. Like, if you give an R. Mason Thomas with the first half of rest, I'm trying to play silver lining.
But he might need a half to warm up.
Take a little bit of coke here.
Okay. If that's how you want to turn it, if you want to turn it like that, Ty. But fourth quarter, whenever we always would say like he turns on NASCAR mode and he can just go, just his only speed, and you just turn in the corner and an obvious pass rush down. That's where he was destroying games last year. And we were hoping to see a little bit more of like, a well-rounded game. We've seen it before with him. He's still a very, very good player. But I feel confident enough. And like you guys said, and the defensive ends above him. And like, I think what it really comes down to, it's like what PJ Adebaware has done so far as a player that we thought was already pretty much done for. Like, he's just a courteous play. That's what we thought, just because we had such high hopes for him. He's been a great serviceable backup. I feel good about him and Wine, and Marvin Jones Jr. is continuing to make good plays and smart plays. He saved. There was one of the sacks that they had where he abandoned his rush from the weak side and went back out and guarded the running back in coverage. And everyone was going right after Marvin Jones Jr. after that play. Not as much the people who made the tackle, more so the people, that guy who went out and made the smart play in coverage to defend the little running back slip screen. And I feel good enough that we can hold down the fort for a half.
Yeah, I agree. Like the depth involved, and it's not to diminish how good our Mason Thomas is. He's incredible. But for me, I feel like this is where that depth really, really matters and shines through. Obviously, it's nice to be able to keep your guys fresh, to rotate like that. But if there is a situation like a suspension or some other, little nagging injury, something like that, this is where that really, really comes into fold here for sure. Any final defensive thoughts before we kind of brush on the offense?
Oh man,
It
this
was
is a special unit, man. This is I think watching all of SEC football this weekend, I don't think there's another SEC defense better than us. Straight up.
It's special. It is special. And I mean, we were talking the entire run up to the game about how much the Temple team total was set at 13.5. And the under for that was in plus money.
Plus points. That's an absolute embarrassment from sports books.
Insane. Insane. They whiffed on it. We felt like that was just a delightful number, and the Sooners delivered. Never really felt like that was in doubt at all.
Should have been a 0 if we wouldn't have thrown a horrible pick.
I mean, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Let's talk a little bit about the offense. I thought overall, you can't be disappointed really at all. I think with 42 points, felt like a really solid performance. A little bit, choppy at times, and of course, the conversation will always shift to the run game. But I don't want to lead off a podcast where OU won 42-3, and we're going to talk about the deficiencies with the run game.
But that's what the people want to hear, Bobby.
Yeah, well, Brian Kelly would be mad at me, for that. So I can't do that.
He gets mad at everything once a year. So come on now.
Right. No, but I thought overall material looked crisp. The offense, looked like it had it going pretty well. I think the line looked a little rough. I know they're missing some pretty key pieces, but overall, I was pretty pleased with the offense.
Yeah. Here's my take on the offense, and I think I'm not trying to hedge against anything in the future. It's certainly not going to occur this weekend against Auburn, but the offense is kind of this marriage between, we have this sort of, it's like a movie script where we have this sort of beautiful creation or something in the defense that is truly championship caliber. And I'm not saying that's in the future for this team as a whole, but like we've said repeatedly, this defensive unit, there's very few teams across the nation that wouldn't say, yeah, let's take on OU's entire defensive unit and swap it for ours if they could. This offense is sort of I hate to use this, but it's almost like a stopgap measure. Like we're still finding our feet. We brought in an experienced dude who's scrappy, but we've seen some inconsistencies in the throws, and I love Mateer, right? But it's the people that are warning you, like, hey, we're seeing some stuff here that might come back to bite OU later in the year on tape and things like that are certainly out there. But this offense is almost like I said, a stopgap measure that just needs to be good and scrappy and fight and put points on the board every now and then so that this defense isn't carrying the team the entire time, like the defense largely has been doing for the past couple of years of Brent Venables. And that's what we're seeing. And I think we're starting to see more people, especially as we get into the run game, that are finding their legs and sort of finding where they slot into this. So I think there's a lot of good on this offense, but yeah, again, we scored 42 points. We were in control of the game the entire time. We could have scored a lot more. But to me, I think there are still a lot of question marks, but there was also a lot of stuff in this game that I really enjoyed. And it was some stuff that we sort of warned our listeners and viewers pregame, like, hey, you're probably going to see this against this Temple team. Things like Mateer clearly being told not to run very much. If you go back and watch when he made no run decisions in the previous games of the year versus this one, there were so many plays that he was just hanging onto the ball, hanging out in the pocket and throwing an incompletion or throwing a ball that he probably wouldn't have thrown because he would have run it in other situations. And we're doing load management with stuff like that in this game. And that was good to see and sort of lean on the backs a little bit more. So again, this was one of our talking points when we broke down this game before was, hey, we might see a little dip in the run game here because this is where it makes sense to back off Mateer, let him take fewer hits. Because if you're taking a hit, you're taking a hit. It doesn't matter if the dude from Bama is hitting you or a dude from Temple's hitting you, right? You still got a 250-pound linebacker hitting you full speed. Like that hit is that hit. So I think I saw what I expected from this offense, and wasn't perfect, but it's nothing to be alarmed about.
Yeah, I think that I think it's a good point to talk about like the run game. And our running back room will be overall viewed as weak, and we can have optimism about a young freshman, but in actuality, if you come back to reality, that's not what we wanted from this running back room. But every single time you say, hey, the run game of Oklahoma is weak, you got to throw in, well, what's John Mateer going to look like this year? And we've seen that whenever it comes down to it and you really need a play, we can run John Mateer into the dirt in Michigan, and it's extremely successful. The quarterbacks that are able to do that in college football right now have a certain level about them that are almost unstoppable. It's like Haynes King and Georgia Tech. Like whenever he gets the ball and he's running it, you know that it is a lot harder to stop that than, a guy coming out from I formation in the running back. And I think that as the year comes on and we play big games like versus Auburn and we play like on the road, QB power, you're going to see that a lot. And so I think it's completely fine to have a little bit of reservation about the running back room, but I think that we'll start to see that same thing, Ty, that we saw versus Michigan of John Mateer getting 15 plus carries.
Yeah, and I'm fine with that. I know a lot of folks in the media are concerned about, Mateer's durability, stuff like that. Yeah, and that's fine.
It's a
but
beast, man. Look at him. Like I understand anyone can get
Yeah.
hurt, but like he's not like a peg.
Yeah.
No,
But
this isn't like Kyler
managing.
Murray.
Yeah, we're managing it. And that's the point. The offense is not reliant on it. We're able to turn that dial up against Michigan, and we're able to turn it down against Temple.
Right. And it was clear that they definitely tried to turn it quite a bit down outside of that massive run for a touchdown. You didn't really see too much of it, which I think is smart. But overall, I don't know. I'm pretty thrilled with Mateer. I think he's on that Heisman caliber level.
Can I ask you though, Bobby, are you concerned about his decision making? 3 straight games with an interception.
So, I mean, yeah, if you wanted to pick out, some of the warts or some of the question marks, he is a little reckless with the ball. He's definitely a bit of a gunslinger. And while that last interception, it's tricky because I feel like it was a dangerous throw, but not because it was a bad throw because of what, where he was sending the receiver kind of just screwed over poor Tez Lewis. Keontez, sorry. Keontez Lewis. It just really not great there. But yeah, I think that's something you could definitely brush up a little bit and sort of figure out. But
yeah, but I think all in all, like what you were going to say is like, I think the overall vibes of John Mateer is pretty damn high, and what he can do as a quarterback for this University of Oklahoma football team is something that we have not seen for a little while. And we've made that talking point every single week.
Yeah.
I also think you live with it. Like you live with the riskiness, because I feel like for every risky pass you get, you also get a risky pass that pans out to be some amazing stuff. If you want to see that duality of John Mateer, look back at Michigan, the ball that almost gets picked off that Satania saves, very next play launches a bomb to Satania. So to me, I feel like he's kind of like like Brett Favre in a way, where you just kind of take the riskiness with the bad risky with the good risky in terms of a football perspective, because Favre
messaging Bobby in private chat talking about riskiness of Favre.
Yeah.
The other thing, and you don't want, like, I would love to have perfection from a college quarterback, but in the game of college football, especially when you have a defense like ours, and his riskiness of throws and the number of throws that Temple's D-line was able to tip was a little alarming, because I think we're starting to see some stuff. And I guess to dial it back again to some of our pregame predictions and some of our predictions from previous game breakdowns, as now we're getting into the season where we can actually point to patterns and stuff that we've seen on tape. we did start to see that even Temple was able to game plan around knowing that we were doing some things that were working on our offense, and they were able to mitigate those a little bit. Obviously, again, we went out there and did whatever we wanted to do, but we did have to change it up with the receivers that we were targeting in this one, and some of that may have been deliberate. Again, like the run game, where we're trying to help people get reps in and trying to help people build that chemistry and stuff as we get into the tougher part of the schedule. But there were certainly some things that I feel like Temple was able to game plan and coach their guys to constantly be just putting your arms up and whatever else, because this ball is going to be coming low and it's going to be coming right across your helmets and things like that. And they were able to tip several. And frankly, that does alarm me when we get into playing some of the better teams later on in our schedule that are going to have much more talented sort of secondaries and linebackers, because when those balls get tipped, and we're playing LSU or we're playing Bama or someone else that has a much better coach secondary and better skilled secondary, not to diminish Temple, those are going to be worrisome.
Well, on Auburn's D line, even, this week, that's something that, batted balls, that's something where, you knock one of those things, up in the air, you have no idea what's going to happen. It's not that is pure chaos right there. And, I know, like, his throwing motion works for him. It's got him this far. Obviously,
it's not going to get
tweak it mid-season.
Yeah, it's not. It's too late to fix it. Just for people that are wondering.
But I would be lying if I said it wasn't something to be like, that's something to watch. Just because of the natural kind of flat lowness of it all.
Yeah, but you see that with like people lower arm angle, it's a little bit smaller. That's just part of it. Like Drew Brees got his balls battered all the time. And he's still one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. Like,
I'm not trying to say he's bad. I'm just trying to say if we want to like kind of look at the things that might be a deficiency.
It's
that I think is legit.
It's decision making, and I'm concerned about it. I guarantee you guys, there's going to be a moment this year that a poor decision is either going to give us lose us a chance of winning a game, or it's going to be like some kind of really bad fourth quarter play. And I don't want to doom this, but there's going to be a close game this year where John Mateer is going to do something that's going to make us angry in terms of his decision making. Yeah. I hope he proves me wrong, but I've seen sample size now 3 of games where he's made a mistake, and it's the law of averages will show up. I'm a little bit nervous, but I think your guys are right that this defense and him is the way he's a player. He's going to put us in. If he's putting us in 2 times out of 10 risky situations, he's putting us 8 times, in really, really good positions. And we talk about these teams in the past that have gone on to win championships. And I'm not saying at this point that Oklahoma's there. I still think there's a lot that we need to improve, but we've seen plenty of really good quarterbacks. I mean, really good defenses take quarterbacks that aren't that good to championships. So if we can lean in our defense and then we get John Mateer as like a guy that can run the ball and be crazy, if he makes a couple of mistakes, hopefully our defense can bail us out on that. And so that's fine.
Yeah. And again, that's you looking at it as like worst case scenario. Like he regresses. He's not like this Heisman front runner type of guy that we, are looking at right now. Because even then, that defense is going to be the basis of what wins OU a national championship down the line. That's going to be the case whether it's Brent Venables or anybody else. Defense genuinely is the bedrock to all of that. And I think OU has that type of defense. It's the everything else you have to kind of sort out as we get into SEC play. The schedule obviously is just a killer, which I know. Look, we're into the season by now. I'm sure everyone's tired of hearing about that. But Brent Venables has started 3-0 every single season at OU. So it's never about the start. It's never about the start. It's never about the non-conference. It's how can you manage things in conference play? When you get into the mix of it all. And I'm intrigued to see how it all pans out. But optimistic for sure. Optimistic for sure.
It'll be interesting when OU plays its first tough game on November 1st.
Good Lord. I do want to note a couple guys. Love Torrey Blaylock. I know a lot of kind of rumblings about the running back room. That dude's a hard runner. Love him.
Thank
He's
God
an
we have him.
RB1 for sure.
Yeah, thank God. He's been a savior for us. We can't avoid it, Bobby. I mean, we're not a sunshine podcast. We just kind of talk what's on our brain, and that's the reality of it. There's a lot of places where you go to like Oklahoma or specific team podcasts, you'll hear all the sunshine first, and you'll get a couple sprinkles of negative. I want to talk about Jaden Ott. It's been 30 minutes in this podcast. That Brent Venables comment after the game of saying like, I can pull up the exact quote, but essentially is like implying that he's not ready on the field and off the field. Yeah, hold on. Let me pull up that exact quote. But it's like, I think that's exactly what we were saying and what I was talking about throughout these past couple of weeks. And then whenever the depth chart releases, like, I think what it comes down to is the way that Jaden Ott is playing in practice and the way that he's playing in the games is he's not our best running back. And we just need to take that thought and all these expectations that we have for him, throw him away and view him as RB3, RB4. And if you can come out and do well, awesome. But all of that money we spent, all of that sunken cost fallacy, I don't care about that anymore. I truly do not care. That he is RB4 in my brain right now and he can work the ranks.
It's to the point where I think everyone should stop expecting Jaden Ott to show up and save that running back room. If he shows up, if he starts performing like we want him to, or how we expected to in preseason, that's awesome. That would be great. But I'm past the point of counting on it at this point. You know, whatever's going on, I don't know. But the second you kind of start getting that veneer, that optimism of the like whatever Brent does, you know, in preseason where he talks glowingly about everything and he kind of, it wears off and you start to kind of see Brent's true thoughts kind of leak out. That's when I kind of hit panic mode. And I mean, if those first 3 games aren't enough, Brent's comments afterwards absolutely were.
I got it for you now.
Yeah. Jameson, what do you say again?
You wish he was a little further along. Here's the big part. In every way. But you get in there, whatever opportunities you have, you get in there, you're ready. You've got good juice, energy, aggressiveness, having an attacking mindset, all those things, everything adds up, everything matters. So we love to get him going. If all things are good in that regard that I just said, his instincts, his speed, all those things can be a real weapon. It's like Brent Venables is sometimes he just keeps going and you're like, I don't know when this guy's going to stop. He's just saying a bunch of words. But whenever you say a bunch of words, some things can sometimes creep out that maybe he didn't want to say. And whenever you hear that, you wish he was a little farther along. Okay, that's fine. That's coach speak. We wish he was a little bit better. He wishes he was a little bit better. Whenever you say in every way, and then you go on to talk about juice, energy, aggressiveness, and attacking mindset, he's essentially saying he doesn't have those.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. And I mean, it reminds me of when he was talking bad about, you know, I'm blanking on our old OC's name. I've tried to completely delete his name from my memory banks.
Seth Luttrell.
No,
Seth Luttrell. Thank you. Earlier last season, you know, when Luttrell's offense wasn't looking good, he was he started getting pretty critical about it in his own Brenty type way. That's concerning. It's concerning.
Yeah. I have a couple things. One, I saw those comments too, and Jimmy in the chat, I agree with him. I think this is a situation where it's an effort from Ott, and this is where I go speculative. I'm not going to speak for anyone else, but I think it's plausible. It could occur that Ott maybe was accidentally a star just on talent alone and not really effort where he used to be, got offered the absolute bag to come here for his resume so far, and showed up and was just another dude on the roster and now has all of his money and is not used to maybe working to the level that this OU team works. And like someone might listen to this and say, oh, OU was 6-7 last year, blah, blah, blah. Yes, but this is a team and a head coach that runs his guys hard in practice, and you might not be used to that. And I'm not diminishing what any other program does. It can be hard for a dude maybe who has been able to rely on talent alone and be a superstar and have people write, you know, remixes of popular songs about how he ought to go and everything else, and have game day sing about him and all that. And then you get to OU and you're just another dude on the roster. And yeah, we've thrown a bag at you for some reason that is gone now. Unfortunately, we can't recover. But you have to go out there and perform, or you're going to have a dude like Blaylock, who's a freshman, who has something to prove, sees the bag that you have and goes, why isn't that my bag? So I think if I were to speculate, yes, he is coming back from injury. That can be a massive part of it. And you never know. You never know what's going on with someone in any regard. But I certainly think it is plausible, especially with the comments that we're starting to see. Because when I read that Brent Venables comment, that sounds to me like give the coach speak. Like if you were to break that down, there's 3 parts. It's give the coach speak answer, but it's something that's really been eaten at you. So you throw in that in every way, and you throw in that little jab because you got angry for a moment. And then you think about it, like you just have that half second of processing, and then you throw on a little more political coach speech at the end to sort of water it down again. That's how I'm reading that comment.
Yeah.
And I know I'm not the only one. And that's where I'm getting that. And I think that's plausible. And I will say, because I am a hater, right? It's sunk cost on that bag. That bag is gone. But that scholarship can go to anyone at any time.
Well,
so
and let's not dog on the guy too much. He's not performed. He's not performed, but like it's not you know what I mean? It sucks. You whiffed on a guy maybe, but there's a lot of season left. We've seen how players can come out, you know, obviously a little less ballyhooed than Jaden Ott, but you know, kind of make appearances, you know, later on in the season as things go on. Dominic Whaley, for example, in the 2010s, he was huge. Roy Finch was a name that you can think of. And the receiving core, Hollywood Brown wasn't even thought of until late. So these sort of things can change.
Guys did not have the expectations that
Agreed.
Jade not have. Dom Whaley was like, who the hell? I'm like, oh,
I know.
Dom Whaley, nice.
I'm not trying to say, oh, this will happen, but I'm just saying like situations can change throughout a season.
I think sports psychology is a really big deal. It is a really big deal. You are under the brightest of lights. You, right now, the players in Oklahoma are the most highly scrutinized people. Okay, I'm going to take that back. But maybe highly scrutinized people in the state right now. I mean,
I don't know about that one.
I mean, from the day-to-day, for amount of quantity, you have more people scrutinizing Oklahoma football. I understand. I'm not going to get into the rest of it.
Outside of the state too.
What I'm getting at is there is a big spotlight on you, and not every single personality of person out there can take that. I think John Mateer is a type of personality that likes that spotlight. He's empowered by it, and he's a lot stronger. And a lot of people like that succeed as leaders. But I don't think every single person is out there has that in them. And whenever things get tough and things aren't perfect, how do we react to it? Jaden Ott was given a hard situation of an injury out last year and then an injury into the spring. And how is he going to react to it this year? Are you going to put that away and be a goldfish like Ted Lasso always says? Or is that going to let you carry it and it's going to be baggage on your shoulders at all times? And my thought process is he's got a lot of baggage right now, and you cannot be an athlete with any kind of baggage. You got to completely rely on your instincts and your muscle memory. And if you're overthinking things, that's how you turn into Jackson Arnold throwing interceptions and not taking the first read, because we saw it last year. This is a different situation, but a guy with a lot of the spotlight, a lot of the expectations and things that did not go his way at the beginning, you get in your head too much and then you're not as good as what you thought you were going to be.
And I think it's a good thing that the running back position isn't quite as mental as quarterback, because there are very few positions that are as, you know, as important mentally as quarterback on the football field.
But in effort, it takes a lot of mental.
I agree. Agreed. And it's not there. The good news is plenty of season left, but he has to turn it around. Like this it's unacceptable, but no, everything can be turned around still. I'm not going to count on
one
it anymore.
big game, the Oklahoma fan base will turn immediately. All it takes is one game. And I don't know if he's going to have that opportunity. That's a real thing. I don't
200 yards. I'm not going to say that that very well could happen. He has the talent to have that happen, but I'm done counting on it at this point.
Yeah.
And I will say the running back room in general is weird. Xavier Robinson still not getting a lot of burn. Taylor Tatum is just disappeared into the phantom zone, I guess. It's confusing how DeMarco Murray has handled his stable of backs for several years now. I don't know, you know, and I at what degree, at what point is it not just a bunch of weirdness with the players? At what point is it on coaching and management?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna.
It's just weird. Just weird.
That was going to be my second point. Is we are kind of at a point too where, and again, you have those lulls, and people are going to point to, oh, DeMarco Murray's been the running back coach since 2020, but at the same time, he didn't really have a lot of control beyond that running back room for the start of that. And I think when we turn it back to the point that DeMarco Murray started to get sort of a lot of control over that running back room is when things started to get just kind of, yes, we have a lot of hype. And I don't know how much of that hype and guys like Ott and guys in the past has been built around just because we're a big enough program that you get the media just hyping up, picking out a name on the depth chart from practice and starting that ESPN hype train. And I don't know how much of that is just prior expectations, because even in recent memory, right, we have such an amazing series of running backs at the University of Oklahoma, to include DeMarco Murray himself. And, Peterson before that, and guys after him like Samaje Perine and everything else, guys that are still in the NFL doing very impressive things to this day. So I think there is a bit of that lofty expectations baked in as well from the University of Oklahoma from a running back standpoint, where if you go back and look at a lot of these guys that we have nitpicked week in and week out, they're pretty decent. But there are a lot of questions, I think, that people might have at the end of this year if this running back room does not change from how it is. Because right now you can point to, we probably don't have time to get to the receivers, but the receivers are strong. They're still finding their way. And I think that room is still sort of getting its legs under it. The quarterback room, I don't think is going to change much, but it's scrappy and it's strong and it's super reliable on the offense right now, at least in terms of, what you're going to get from it. And the line, I think people have realistic expectations, but this running back room is just constantly, it feels like the same, like we're just plugging in different names and different years, but it's like the same talking points every year. And we're just like, it's going to take off eventually. So I don't know. It is sort of curious. The guy that is as loved at OU as DeMarco Murray is, has just sort of been in the same position for 5 years now, which is pretty rare in college football, I will say, to be in a position group like that and not moving around. And we're just kind of having the same talking points year after year. Yeah,
it's odd. And Jameson, so you said something in the comments about you can't feed 5 running backs at the table. And, I do get it. Like there's room for everyone, but we're essentially playing 2 guys.
Yeah, that's kind of the pro way to do it. Maybe it's a completely different style of thinking. Like, do we need to feed 5 people at the table, or do we need to prepare whenever you truly see the writing on the wall that your best running back's a true freshman? Screw it, give him all the reps. I don't care if he's 100% and he's still dealing with whatever was it, shoulder injury he had. I don't care. He needs reps, and that's going to be our workhorse. And we're going to treat this like a professional organization. That's because that's the way that the college football is turning.
I mean, maybe I suppose whole thing's weird. Let's wrap up on Temple because we've gone a little longer than expected. I thought the receivers were fine. Gotta say, shout out to Isaiah. What?
I said Satania is a baller. I just beat you to it.
Satania was great. Kanik was great. Very, very happy with Satania. I thought he had a great bounce back performance. Kanik couldn't be happy with him. What did you think about the decision to go for 2? That was a little odd, but kind of fun.
Why not? People saying, oh, they took away their play. They're not going to go out there and use that play if they think that it's going to waste it, guys. That is a bad take. The correct take is putting that out there on tape is either A, going to waste Texas, Alabama, whoever's time to spend 30 minutes scheming it, or a 10-minute session in practice scheming it, waste their time and we never do it again, or we have a wrinkle to it that we're setting something up in the future. Why not do that versus Temple? Yeah. And so I think that's actually a good thing.
Yeah. The confidence building of yours, this is, to me, if I'm looking at this from an organizational leadership standpoint, one of the biggest question marks and biggest sort of circles on everyone's talking points leaving Michigan was what's going on with this OU special teams. And if I can take us right into this game against Troy. I actually just forgot who we played. If I could take us right into this game against Troy, and first opportunity that I get, let the special teams go out and do something
Troy?
special.
Temple.
Exactly. That was not a bit.
I kept saying, I was like,
red team
he said
teams.
Troy. He said Troy a second time, and I was like,
Yeah, that was
I'm
not a
making
bit.
sure I
No,
heard
but
that right.
in short, yeah, if we can go out and immediately put something on the highlight reel that they're going to be high-fiving, jumping up and down, just back in their confidence and show people, like, get right back on that horse and say, yes, our special teams, took a tank, but I'm going to trust them to make this play here and just rebuild our confidence early in the season in games like this against this red team with a T that we played. That's when you do that. And I love that. That's what I think that was. And again, yes, there is second, third order effects of people now have to spend at least some cognitive bandwidth and time trying to plan for that. Obviously, you're planning against that no matter what on the special team side. But I think it was a brilliant sort of leadership point, whether that was intended or not, that I haven't heard anyone talk about in other media. So wanted to shout that out.
Yeah. Tijuana in the chat brought up that it, having it out there, that we can go for 2 with no QB kind of prevents teams from overloading in on, extra points, which, trying to block that, which, hey, that's a good point.
Jaron Kinnick played quarterback in high school, and he was like a straight athlete from Kansas. So, like,
yep.
Yeah, he can do whatever he wants. I think he's proven that to us.
Yeah, without a doubt. He was, yeah, very impressive. All right. Well, that was Temple. But let's move ahead to our next game, the SEC opener. The Auburn Tigers come to Norman. Titanic top 25 showdown here. And, let's just get right to it. Jackson Arnold, once the quarterback of the future for Oklahoma, returning to Owen Field to try to take down his old team. Great performance for him in, I would say, in the opener against Baylor, but haven't had a lot of challenges since then. I think if you wanted to circle a matchup, it's clearly going to be Jackson Arnold versus the OU defense as the one with the most eyeballs on it.
Yeah, and I think we talked about this in the train station on the way to Philly, Bobby, but we can talk about games that can be make or break for Oklahoma in terms of perception and say, oh, Michigan had college game day. All the eyes were on us. And as soon as we won that game, you get all of these announcers and all these SEC people putting us top 2, top 3 in the SEC, our dark horse, all of that stuff. But there's another side of this is this game might even mean more because Jackson Arnold was broken by us. We talked about his psyche and his mental. He was broken by us. If he leaves, goes to another team, comes to our house and beats us, that's almost worst case scenario for PR right there. Like what we need to do as a defense, say we have one of the better defensive in America. And this is a quarterback that we needed to not even play last year. And we probably, the benching was needed. Now we have someone even better, and I'm going to show you guys why John Mateer is elite and Jackson Arnold is a middling thrower. And they're going to be a one-dimensional run game at the beginning. They're going to do a couple of throws because they have really good wide receivers, but they're going to get their momentum based off the QB run and the running back run. And this run defense makes me feel like we can stop that and put them in uncomfortable situations early, get Jackson Arnold in a 3rd and 9. And that's where we can get that interception and those turnovers that Brent Venables was wanting.
Yeah, I think turnovers are a key because, and I might be a ball not knower. Tune in Wednesday for our picks pod because I might legitimately be a ball not knower after this past weekend, but I still am unable to see, outside of just people in the media trying to hype up a matchup, I just don't see why this is a 6.5 point line. I don't see why this is a big storyline. Like when I look at Auburn's resume so far, it's not the same level. It's when I look at what they've done, it's not, again, right? You play these cupcakes and it's like, what more do you expect from them? But I haven't really been tremendously impressed. Like for context, Jackson Arnold from the air, and Auburn hasn't really been throwing that much, but Jackson Arnold from the air has 501 yards so far this year. John Mateer is about 50 short of 1,000. So it's like, I just don't see, like, I think Mateer's a better runner. I think Mateer's a scrappier guy. I think we're going to see for the first time ever as OU fans, we get this magical moment where we're finally going to get a game played in Norman that we can look at the final score at the end of the game and point to it and go, for one time ever, the one time it ever occurred, Jackson Arnold was responsible for an OU win in Norman. And it's like I don't
Alabama.
Yeah, I didn't know where he was going with that one.
Yeah, but he was not solely responsible for that win. That's what I mean. It's like I think you would have to, for this game to even be close, I think we'd have to turn the ball over on offense at least 4 times. For this to even be a
Christ, that's a game. What's the spread out right now?
6.5.
Which I don't
minus 6.5.
I don't understand. And it's yes, Auburn has looked good on the ground. OU hasn't looked amazing on the ground. OU's played legitimate opponents. Yes, Auburn's D line is looking decent, and it's really hard to tell when you've played people like they've played. But OU's D line looks significantly better. Like I just don't. And then I look at the coaching staff over at Auburn, and this is not to diminish any of them, but no one on Auburn's coaching staff has any sort of proven track record at developing a young quarterback. And to me, that's the number one thing. I think Arnold could be amazing if he went to like USC and sat for 2 years and played a single year and just got coached by Lincoln Riley for 3 years or something like that. Like, I think that's what he needed more than NIL money. And it's just, I don't think this is that amazing of a matchup as people are trying to make it out to be, because I know what I'm going to get from this OU team. And I think the more people hype up this storyline, the more you get that OU team that played Michigan, but now with 2 more games of experience, facing off against an Auburn team that's going to be facing, frankly, their first real game of the year. And yes, I understand they played Baylor, but I don't know.
Well, and I think to me, that's the biggest thing is that Baylor game, a lot of people had that as a candidate for an upset, myself included. And when you watch that game, it was evident relatively quickly that the difference in size between Baylor and Auburn in the line at the line of scrimmage in the trenches was so overwhelmingly in favor of Auburn that they were just going to bully them and that was the way to play them. That was the way for Auburn to beat Baylor, and it absolutely worked. They're not going to have that advantage against Oklahoma, especially Auburn's offensive line against OU's defensive line. OU's O-line, that's where you kind of like have a little questions. You need some guys back. You would desperately need Fasusi back for that one.
And he was in a boot on the sidelines. When I was talking to you about that, if this was truly a mild ankle sprain, why the hell we got him in a boot still? So that's like, I don't know. This whole precautionary stuff, Bobby, that's spooking me. That ain't adding up from a medical standpoint.
It's odd. I'll take your word for it that it's odd. And again, it's a week. A lot can happen. It would be weird. Honestly, it's kind of weird that they even took him to Philadelphia. Like a couple guys stayed back. Maybe for his rest, the best thing would have been to sit back in Norman. But I think you definitely need Fasusi. He's shown that he's capable against high-level defensive players. Really need him back in that. I think that's really ultimately where that game is going to be, won and lost, is how OU can handle another insanely great defensive line, another, good O-line. And I think they can. I think Auburn, for me, I think that any advantage they have on that in terms of size is going to be negated, and they're going to have to kind of force Jackson Arnold to throw the ball. And that's where you run into some problems, because he has not been throwing at all, Jameson.
Yeah, and I think that he has the tools too. I talked about this at the beginning of the year. I really, really like Auburn's wide receiver room. Eric Singleton is really damn good, and Cam Coleman is a baller as a true sophomore. Like a really, really hard get for our D-backs to get. And, Gentry Williams didn't play last game, and we've got Kendall Dolby coming back fresh from an ankle fracture. And so, we can talk a lot about Cortland Guillory and all of the fun things in our cornerback room, but those are 2 wide receivers that are going to give us problems. They're going to give us problems. But the thing is, can Jackson Arnold get them the ball? And my goal as a defense is I know that what they want to do as an offense is to get ahead on first and second down and make those passing downs a lot easier. But if we can get them behind the sticks, take away their run game, I don't know if Jackson Arnold will be consistent enough to get to those wide receivers and allow them to make as much game-breaking plays to beat us.
Right. No, and I think that's where it comes down to, is putting that that's where Baylor had a lot of success, I felt like, was getting him into long yardage, third downs, kind of pressing them, and where Auburn had the most amount of success is whenever they could chip their way down the field, when they were getting success each and every play. And I don't know. I think that's going to be, that's the key to the game right there, is force them into some really tough situations. It's going to be an awesome environment. I think OU fans, they got their confidence back. They got their swagger back a little bit. Obviously a massive game. You got the whole SEC today set up. It's going to feel like another just enormous game in Norman. Which it really is, because frankly, every SEC game in Norman is kind of a massive game.
I'm nervous, honestly.
Oh yeah.
Just talking about this. Ty, are you more nervous right now than you were for Michigan or for Auburn?
No, not. I have never once been. I have legitimately given legitimate, honest effort to try to be as objective as possible and see how I could see this Auburn game going any other way than OU winning by 2 or 3 touchdowns, and I just cannot comprehend it, because it's I look at everything that Auburn brings, and outside of the receiver room, it's does Auburn have a better D-line than Michigan? I mean, maybe we'll see more as the year goes on.
I think they
up to this point, they could, but it's
close. But they've got a better player.
I don't know. They don't have a bigger
position. He's a damn good. He's going to make some game-wrecking plays.
Yeah.
But altogether, I mean, Michigan, I'd say it's the equivalent.
Michigan has a seasoned unit for sure, but I think it's a fair comp.
I just think when I look at this Auburn team, and even when I listen to the people that genuinely believe that this is going to be like a close or competitive or upset type game, it's, to me, the things they're saying just aren't inspiring confidence. When you have to start talking about they might have a big play here or there, or they might win they might create some turnovers against whatever. Every time I see anyone break this game down, and from my own perspective too, it's just, OU is going to dominate this one, and here's the list of freak accidents and lucky things that Auburn needs to chain together if they hit their absolute ceiling on all of these different position groups, which happens in college football. It's what makes college football magical. You have those nights where chaos ensues and guys just magically hit their absolute ceilings for no reason. Trevor Knight against Nick Saban's Alabama, for example, in the Sugar Bowl. You always have moments where people just start to shine. Blake Bell, anytime Oklahoma State was on the other side of the ball, right? There's always people that just have these moments, and it is possible that Jackson Arnold has the talent. It is possible that.
But Brent knows he's coming, and he knows who he is. They did not know that Blake Bell was coming. They did not know that Trevor Knight was going to be like that.
Well,
and that's the thing is
Brent him.
Yeah.
Brent not only does he know him, he has an advantage that nobody else has. He spent years with him. He has his game tape. He has his practice tape. He knows what he will bite on in terms of RPO. He knows his ticks, and genuinely, this is one of the worst people you can go up against in that situation if you're Jackson Arnold. It's hard enough to go against the Brent Venables defense. It's even harder when it's a situation where he knows your ins and outs, like everything. Because everything we know about how Jackson Arnold has performed against a Brent Venables defense, it's not good. It's not pretty. We've heard the scrimmage reports, man. We know about the scrimmage reports. And that was him probably not trying to make life hell on him. So I'm just saying.
Yeah, honestly, that's a really good point. And I feel like a lot of quarterbacks that go back and play their former teams, you always say their defense coordinator knows him. But if it's a really good quarterback, they should be able to scheme out and do well and not have too many of their deficiencies shine. Now, Jackson Arnold, I think that he has a very large deficiency in his game as a quarterback, and that's decision making, which might be and well, skill as a thrower and instinct as a thrower. And if you have that big of a deficiency in your game, a defensive genius in Brent Venables is going to find ways to make you uncomfortable. I think that this skill in the wide receiver room of Auburn will show out and make Jackson Arnold look good a couple times, and he is inevitably going to have some good runs for a first down. But just wait. There's going to be a couple of strings of plays that makes him look really bad, and all we need is to win a couple of possessions.
Right.
Yeah.
No, for sure. And it's one of those where you don't. He will have those moments. That happens with any situation with a good runner that you leak out and get a run. But it's about mitigating the big plays. It's about forcing him into mistakes. And this defense to me just feels perfectly matched up to stop a quarterback run game, a physical run game. He's not going to be able to Alabama us. He's not going to be able to.
Boganowski's going to be
Baylor
coming
us.
down and just going to lay his shoulder right to Jackson.
Yeah. Here's
what I think. And we were talking about the importance of sports psychology earlier in the podcast. And to me, when I think about Jackson Arnold, sort of his defining moments, and I'm not trying to say this was solely his fault or anything else like that. But to me, one of Jackson Arnold's defining moments in an OU uniform was the Tennessee game last year, where they were able to go out and just punch him in the mouth. And he was individually behind the curve from a mental standpoint, and he never recovered from that. And it was just an ensuing snowball effect. And that was in our own home stadium. And I think that Venables probably knows Jackson Arnold enough to know that if we can scheme some stuff up early where, hey, even we let him out there and get a little 10-yard run, but somebody smokes him good, or like we just get like pressure on him. Like if we can create mistakes from him individually early on in the game, I think you get him to mentally check out, because I've seen that time and time again from him, and not massively. But if you go back and watch those games, he gets a little, I don't want to say he gets defeated, but he realizes that he's behind the curve and he gets a little frantic. And then all of those cracks that he has start to amplify. You get that ice in those cracks that freezes and starts to break those cracks open a little bit more. And I think that we have a defense that is going to be able to do that without having to get fancy with it and without having to break down sort of the core principles of defense. We're not going to have to like magically send everyone on a couple plays at the start and risk a big play to try to get a sack behind the line of scrimmage or something like, well, that's the only place sacks occur. But like we have a good enough defense that we can dial up the pressure, dial up the aggression of this defense and not sacrifice the coverage. And yeah, they have dudes that are potentially going to be able to hurt us a few times deep, but only if the quarterback can get them the ball. So I really do think that there's going to be a really big emphasis on our defensive game plan of really bringing the heat and the pressure to begin with. And I think the fans are going to play a big piece in that too. It's, you don't want it to be a toxic environment for anyone, but I think it's going to be a loud environment. I think it's going to be a tough place to play. I personally, I don't feel like there's a lot of animosity within OU towards Jackson Arnold. I don't think there should be any animosity towards him for leaving. Frankly, if there's any animosity, it should be towards some of his performances in an OU uniform. But
I hope we don't boo him.
Yeah, I hope.
You think we're going to boo him? I think that there still will be fans that are salty.
I mean, let's just be honest. We're fans of Oklahoma sports. We are weirdly, we boo. We don't exactly handle this well, even though
We've never been wrong.
When have the fans booed have been wrong? Seth Luttrell. Oh no, they were so wrong. They were wrong about Spencer Rattler. Caleb Williams is so much better than Caleb Williams.
I mean,
Spencer Rattler, starting quarterback in the NFL. Spencer Rattler.
Yeah, anyone can start. That dude who was like 50 all time at Texas Tech is like a star in the NFL, I've heard. So,
oh god,
that was not a Baker Mayfield joke.
He's a 0-2 quarterback in the league, by the way.
That's true. He is. I hope they don't go too hard on him, but that's just what it is.
No,
it's not going to be anything like. It's not going to be anything like. It's not going to be anything like Baker's return to
There's
Texas
a difference
Tech or
between
anything.
booing and people like tossing a beer at him or like, sending him death threats and stuff.
I see
Is what I meant.
Yeah. I want them to boo, not for the fact out of anger. Don't boo just because you're angry at him. No, boo to get in his head. Get in his head. Do our part as a fan base. This is a guy who's broken under pressure. Put more pressure on his shoulders. And if he wants to go out there and perform, applause for Jackson. But I've not seen anything from him this year that he's thrown under pressure and done well at it.
And to be fair, not only that, if you boo him and he's sad about it, he can wipe up some tears with some Auburn money. Like he's getting paid. This isn't like the old days where, maybe he's getting paid under the table or something like that. They're fine. They're paid athletes. Like obviously don't cross a line, but booing, making noise, like that's all in good fun. That's a part of it.
Making noise like the noise that a fire alarm would make in a hotel.
Ty, you up for that? Bobby was thinking like, what do you want me to go out there and do the fire alarm
I was trying to figure out, like, do you want me to just start screaming?
The classic, no, the classic SEC trick where they figure out the hotel that the visiting team is at. Somebody goes over there and pulls a fire alarm at 2 a.m. or something.
And look,
do not do. I'm just saying. Auburn and Alabama
again, and definitely don't pull the European trick of setting off fireworks in front of the hotel. Like, really don't do that. That's not good. That's not cool.
Bobby's trying to incite a riot from our podcast.
No, I'm not trying to incite I'm trying to tell people what not to do. I'm trying to tell the fans what not to do. Fans hate they love being told what to do.
I sense
by
that
people with
tone in your
podcasts.
voice.
I don't understand what you're talking about, but anyways, no, it's going to be a great environment. And truly just one of those days, I felt like that Michigan game was just like the perfect OU football game. I kind of feel like this could have that same type of vibe. Obviously hopes are a little high. But I mean, it's a perfect setup. I love a 2:30 game. Love a 2:30 kickoff. It just feels right, So super
Bobby,
pumped.
Do you think that the Auburn trees on Toomer's Corner will be guarded during the OU game?
I mean, now I'm for real. Don't poison any trees. Don't actually do not do that. That is a bad idea. So yeah, don't do that. But anyways, any final thoughts from Auburn? We're going to pick this game on the weekend spread on Wednesday, so make sure to tune in there.
Yeah.
We'll pick that game and 9 other games, including our wild card, as usual. Final thoughts?
I would say in conclusion, I'm excited for this one because, again, I think this is a game that we're getting our fair helping from the media and sort of hyping this up because there is a tremendous storyline here. But I think this isn't just another opportunity again. Like, we're getting spoon-fed these wonderful opportunities to get sort of casual eyes on, the people that don't watch college football actually, aka the AP voters and the CFP selection committee, to watch this game and to hear all of these storylines. And I think this is an OU team that is perfectly built to, like, not blow this Auburn team out, but this OU team is perfectly built to absolutely dominate this Auburn team. And at the same time, I think, again, it's a confidence building. Like we talked about the receiver room, something that we haven't necessarily faced, but it's not wrapped in an insurmountable package. So it's something that, again, our defense can learn from and get some reps in and build confidence to be a more complete team when we go in and face some of these other teams on our schedule. So I'm very, very, very excited. I'm more excited for this game than I am the Michigan game, because I was a little unsure, but now I am a Brent Venables believer, and I cannot wait for just another terrible Jackson Arnold performance in Norman, Oklahoma.
Yeah, I think I'm more nervous for this game as well, just because, the Michigan game, we lose, we just revert back to what we were last season, and we just doom. Now, expectations are higher again. People are hypothesizing about what this team could be as a possible playoff team, as a possible contender in the SEC. We get that plenty, and now we've got a guy who could come in, and if he beats us, that is the worst case possibility, like worst possible case. If they go out there and Auburn handles us, I am going to be very, very nervous for the rest of the season.
Right. And I think, I mean, that's the stressor of it all is on one end, if you beat Auburn, you're going to be undefeated before Texas. You know, I feel like I'm not jinxing Kent State, who is just a blood bag to.
They
get
gave
the university
Buffalo a
money.
hard fight this weekend, Bobby.
Oh, golly. I'm shaking in my boots. You're undefeated against Texas. The tenor of your season, you know, the shift that we've had from like, can we survive to we might be able to do something here, completely cranks to a different level. If you lose, you can still make make the playoffs. You still have an opportunity to, you know, do something and make it a good season. But winning here catapults your season into a totally different realm. This whole idea of beating Auburn and beating Michigan, you know, that's the basis of any realistic playoff push. So now that you're actually here, you're one win away, you look great. You got to have it. You got to have it. In college football games these days, you know, there's a lot of flexibility in terms of losses. You know, you like one or like two losses doesn't kill a season. Just ask the Ohio State Buckeyes. But with the OU schedule we have, with how Auburn's set up, with how OU is set up, this is one you really got to get because it's going to get tougher and tougher and tougher down the road. And opportunity feels pretty bright for the Sooners in this Southeastern Conference, which is looking more and more doable by the weekend, I will say.
Yeah. I love this pressure. I love this feeling of pressure, boys. It feels good to be back.
Isn't this better than just having like Iowa State every week?
No, it's so much better.
Yeah,
I'm much more worried about a random Iowa State team than I am this Auburn team.
Don't get tired.
That's a bad example. Random Texas Tech or like I don't know.
That's what Auburn. Like, Auburn is the Texas Tech of the SEC. That's what you need to know, viewers.
Yeah, there's actually some comps there, but no, it's so much better just having like these just waves of really cool, tough and like teams coming to Norman. Excited to see Auburn like who all they bring, like how many people come out for it, and you know all that. Hopefully they bring their band. That'd be a shame if they didn't. Genuinely. Anyways, all right, let's wrap the show up. Ty, before we go, you know, Jameson and I were at OU Temple in Philly. You were also at a college football game on Saturday, and you got to see our sort of adopted second team, Texas State against Arizona State. Your adopted one of many teams.
Yes, it was kind of the weekend spread game environment, actually, because it was like two of our constantly recurring teams that make no sense for us to constantly talk about. So it was fun. I got to meet Boko. I don't know if Bobby's going to show the picture here, but I gave him the picture, or I can hold it up. But
I'm on it.
I got to meet Boko as they got blown out by ASU. And it was a tremendous and very eye-opening experience, I will say. This is the first time I've been to an Arizona State game, even though I live locally. And OU might be okay. Well, if I knew you were just going to hold it up like that, I could have done that. I thought you were gonna.
I totally was. But it didn't come through on my screen or on my computer. It's a long story. I'll see if I can get it up.
No worries. Maybe on Wednesday. But yeah, super fun. Long story short, I think OU is maybe ripping off the fans in terms of game day cost because I spent like $100 total to park like a 3-minute walk from the stadium, get 2 tickets on the 9th row, and get like a bunch of concessions. So it was an amazing environment that would have cost legitimately would have cost over $1,000 to do at OU, even against like a random opponent. So big fan of just visiting random college football games. Yeah, really excited. That's awesome. Texas State, I forgot because I had mentioned this in the pregame, but I took a few pictures with Boko and then asked to do a horns down one. And when I said I went to OU, can we do one with horns down because Texas sucks? All of the Texas State cheerleaders went insane when I said that. And it was funny at the moment. And then as I was walking to my car, I was like, have they ever even played Texas? Why are they so excited about this? This is It's not. You guys are not. They don't even know who you are. Like you're not rivals, but yeah, I got a horns down with Boco nonetheless, which was fun.
Just genuinely perfect. They play. I think they played at Texas next year. Jameson, just truly a great moment in the podcast history. That
Oh my
Yeah,
one
god!
of our members.
I needed
With-
to go.
with Boco.
Yeah, I needed to
You.
go. I needed to
Let's
go.
go.
Befriend
Go down to
Boco since
Austin?
Jameson has abandoned them for USF, who he then also immediately abandoned the second they played Miami.
Y'all always gave me crap for staying on for too long. I'm trying to be a bigger and grown man.
Well, and I will say it worked for him both times. But anyways, well, that's all we have for this version of our podcast. We'll be back on Wednesday to make our picks for OU Auburn and the rest of the big games in college football. Thank y'all so much for watching. If you like the show, make sure to like us on YouTube, subscribe, all of that good stuff. And if you're listening on the podcast feed, 5 stars, of course, to help us grow. Very much appreciate y'all supporting the show. Truly means a lot to us. And we'll see you next time. Boomer Sooner, everybody.